We'd like to welcome you back to part 3 of our current event and weekly Bible study for May 26, 2013. I have no idea how many parts this is going to be today. It's 38 pages. I'm on page 8, so that's a good sign. I have no clue. Now, granted, a lot of them are some of my newsletters I put toward the end, which I'm not going to be going over all of those in detail. But it's going to be quite a long study for today. So, let's go a little bit further here. Next report is entitled, Boy Scouts of America Vote to Go Gay. And the person writing the article says, memo to BSA, which will be Boy Scouts of America. So just remember that because I'll have to use that abbreviation a lot in this teaching. BSA, Boy Scouts of America. All forms of homosexuality are a sin against God. Looks like it's time to rewrite the century-old path, though, for you. So you'll understand that in a second. Jeremiah 6:16 says, Thus saith the Lord, Stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, We will not walk therein. Okay, I put that verse in there because the guy starts out by saying, looks like it's time to rewrite the century-old path. Now, what is he in reference to? Well, the Boy Scout oath, which is, in part, I'll read you some of it. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Now, that doesn't... Obviously, we know what morally straight means. You know? Even the show The Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. The straight guy, okay, he's heterosexual. Okay, straight. The morally straight. Whereas a homosexual's ways are crooked. I mean, the word Wiccan means twisted or crooked or bent. So that's what a white witch would call herself typically, a Wiccan. And it means twisted or bent. Homosexual lifestyle would also fall into that classification. So this was their oath. Okay? You know, to keep myself, morally straight, to do my duty to God. Yeah, we can pretty much throw all that out the window now, especially. So my comment, well, this oath will have to be greatly modified now to appease the Sodomites. True. How are they going to be able to keep this oath now? Now, I'm going to get into the details of what actually happened here. But Romans 1:27 says, And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another. Men with men, working that which was unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense, meaning kind of like that reward of their error, which was meat. Meat is spelled M-E-E-T, and that means the reward that was fit. In other words, like the punishment fits the crime. It's almost like that's the reward. It's the meat means apt, fit, proper. Okay, so this is from out of Grapevine, Texas. The Associated Press says the Boy Scouts of America threw open its ranks Thursday to gay Boy Scouts, but not gay Scout leaders. Not yet, at least, is what I would say. A fiercely contested compromise that some warned could fracture the organization and lead to mass defections of members and donors. Of the roughly 1,400 voting members, I had to read this. Actually, I modified this article. I took some text that was further down in the article and I moved it up to the top. And I'm going to show you why I did that in a second. Because it took a little bit to figure this out. But when I did the numbers, it became very obvious. Of the roughly 1,400 voting members of the BSA's National Council, remember BSA's Boy Scouts of America, of the BSA's National Council who cast ballots, 61%, or 854 people, supported the proposal to include gays drafted by the Governing Executive Committee. The policy change takes place effectively on January 1st. So there were 1,400 voting members that voted on this. Okay? Out of them, 61% or 854 of the 1,400 supported the proposal to bring in gay Boy Scouts. Proverbs 17:15 was, I believe, an appropriate verse for this. He that justifieth the wicked, and he that condemneth the just, even they both are an abomination to the Lord. That is the quintessential essence of all of these reports I'm talking about today here. The homosexual movement consistently over and over seeks to justify the wicked and their wicked behavior, and condemn the just, and try to keep the people that are righteous and just with their mouths shut so that they can't speak out against this wickedness. Okay? Well, anyone that does that, both are an abomination to the Lord. And when I see 61% out of these 1,400 people, 854 people, these 854 are an absolute abomination to God. The Bible's very, very clear on that. Now, of the more than 200,000 leaders, parents, and youth members who responded, now, but these weren't official voting members of the BSA's National Council, but there are 200,000 leaders, parents, and youth members who responded to this issue to get their opinion. 61%, which is the exact number of the when you look at the 200,000 leaders, parents, and youth members, and you look at the 1,400 voting members, in both cases, 61% of the 1,400 voted in favor, and that's why the gay thing passed. But 61% of the leaders, parents, and youth members who responded, of the 200,000, supported the current policy of excluding the gays. So it was the exact flipped opposite ratios. But please, let's look at the numbers here. A mere 854 people overrode the wishes of 128,000 people, because if you take 61% of 200,000, you come up with 128,000. In this case, it's the absolute quintessential essence of the minority rules, which is what I've just been documenting in the previous parts to this study. When gays take over, they pre-position themselves into positions where they can do the maximum amount of damage possible to serve their father, Satan, the best they can do. Okay? This is beyond a travesty of justice. 61% of the 200,000 people, who really should be the ones that have the voice, were this is 128,000 people were overrode by 854 people. This is total insanity. My comment, I'm going to make this even clearer with this comment. So in other words, a mere 854 pre-positioned, liberal, pro-gay voting members overrode the righteous, pro-morality convictions of 128,000 Boy Scout leaders, parents, and youth members who wanted to continue to exclude gays in any way, shape, or form. Sounds like justice was truly served here. Where is the outrage? Why on God's green earth would these 128,000 just sit back and let this happen? Well, they can't. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. They can vote with their feet. There should be an absolute, total mass exodus out of the Boy Scouts. Probably see a little exodus, but how much, I don't know. What does the Bible have to say? Isaiah 59, 7 through 9 says, and this would be these 854 pro-gay pre-position voting members who voted for this. It's reminding me of this. Their feet run to evil. You think about the gays, again, with the absolute morals that would make an alley cat blush. Literally, their feet run to evil. You research that lifestyle at all. Most of it I can't even possibly even bring up in this study. It is so evil, sick, debased, and debauched, perverted, and vile. I couldn't even possibly get into it. You know? let no corrupt communication proceedeth from your mouth. I don't want to. You don't want to get into the gory details of what they're doing. But their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Well, most pro-gays are also pro-abortion. So do you ever see a bunch of gays walking in a pro-life parade? Do you ever see? No. Ever. Lesbians for pro-life. No. You would never. If it's the side of wickedness, that is where they're going to side. It's a proven fact. The homosexual, gay, lesbian, transgender are also very, very pro-abortion. So, their feet make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity. Wasting and destruction are in their path. The average homosexual lifestyle, the average lifespan, I think at this point is below 50. It is by far, as far as the demographic goes, I believe the shortest lifespan of any. But that's never, ever, ever talked about in the mainstream media. Oh, hey, they only live over 25 years less than an average person because of their sick, debauched lifestyle. It's a proven fact. I've went over this over and over. I have I think it's about a 70 or 80 page file just documenting all of this. Not my stuff, not my research. All of the research has already been done. Irrefutable. The sewer of a lifestyle that especially, I think the men more than anything live. Not to say the lesbians are bad, but the men in particular are. We're talking, wow, you can't even comprehend it, how wicked it is. So, wasting and destruction are in their paths. That's what they do. The way of peace they know not, and there is no judgment in their goings, meaning there's no true righteous judgment in their going. They want perverted judgment. They have made them crooked paths. Remember what I was just talking about? The word wicked means bent or twisted. Wicken, twisted, crooked. They have made them crooked paths. The homosexual lifestyle. It's a crooked path. Whosoever goeth therein shall not know peace. Therefore is judgment far from us. In a society, in other words, in a society where this is the norm, true biblical judgment in the court systems and in the world in general will be far from us. This is why there's such little justice or judgment in this world that we live in, particularly in America and elsewhere. When you have this type of stuff going on, true judgment will be far from us. And righteous judgment is an attribute of God. And then it says, neither doth justice overtake us. There's very little true justice. There's very little judgment. True judgment. And then it says, we wait for light, but behold obscurity. For brightness, but we walk in darkness. That is becoming the norm. Anybody in this type of lifestyle is absolutely groping and walking in darkness. And they love the darkness. Why? Because their deeds are evil. The Bible's very clear on that. People that love the darkness love darkness because their deeds are evil. And a cockroach doesn't want to have the light put on it. It runs from the light. That's how people that participate in this type of thing. They don't want their sins being laid bare because their deeds are evil. So, of the more than 100,000 scouting units in the United States, 70% are chartered by religious institutions, which is also just another absolute total indictment of the 501c3 corporate church. Because guaranteed those 70% are 99.9999, if not 100%, 501c3 corporate churches. Okay, literally given their right to exist by the government via the IRS. Okay, so the fact that 70% of these scouting units are chartered by the religious institutions, it just shows you, though, where's the outrage? Why haven't, but you're probably not going to see that because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be politically incorrect. They don't want to maybe lose their 501c3 tax-exempt status. They couldn't have that. So those include liberal churches opposed to any ban on gays, but some of the largest sponsors are relatively conservative denominations that have previously supported the ban on gays. Most notably the Roman Catholic Church and the Mormons. So now the Roman Catholic Church and the Mormons are on board with the bringing the gays in other words. Which you're going to see more and more of that. You're going to see more and more pseudo-Christian denominations bringing in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, I mean, you're going to have to see that in order for there to be a one-world religion. While the Southern Baptists were clearly upset by the vote to accept openly gay youth, the Mormon Church reacted positively. We trust that the BSA, this is from the LDS, Latter-day Saints or Mormons, we trust that the BSA will implement and administer the approved policy in an appropriate and effective manner, said an official LDS statement. This has been a challenging chapter in our history, BSA Chief Executive Wayne Brock said after the vote. Then he goes on to say, while people have differing opinions on this policy, kids are better off when they're scouting. End of quote. What does that mean? That means that even, whatever your opinion, here's the bottom line, guys. Throw the Bible out the window. Gay kids and our kids are better when they're scouting. It doesn't matter if you're commingling your child with a gay person. They're all better off when they're scouting. What, is this the world according to you, devil? I don't want my if I had a boy or whatever, I wouldn't want him with openly gay, I wouldn't want him with closetly gay youths in there anyway. You know? I mean, these people are vessels for devils, okay? I'm not saying a straight person can't have a boatload of devils either. I'm just saying homosexuals, it's not something you want to be yoking your kids up with. I mean, obviously. So going further, I mean, from a biblical standpoint. However, the outcome will not end the bitter debate over the Scouts' membership policy. Liberal Scout leaders, while supporting the proposal to accept gay youth, have made clear that they want the ban on gay adults lifted as well. This is what really got my blood boiling. It's not enough to just have the gay youth. They want all the queer scoutmasters in there doing their thing as well. My comment? Of course you do. As these closet pedophiles want the ability to prey on innocent young boys and sexually molest them, all under the cover of being a, quote, scout leader. Like so many have in the past, and the proof of this is undeniable, as we will see in subsequent reports. So we're going to get back to that. In contrast, conservatives with the Scouts, including some churches that sponsor Scout units, wanted to continue excluding gay youths, in some case threatening to defect if the ban were lifted. Well, they should. They should have nothing to do with this vile organization, the Boy Scouts of America. We're going to be looking at them more. The result was welcomed by many liberal members of the scouting community and by the gay rights activists. You see everything we're going over today? It's just this whole GLBT crowd is just trying to hem us in on every single side is what they're doing. And we need to be on our knees praying against this wickedness and speaking out against it as well. Because if we don't, it's just going to continue and continue and continue just to overwhelm and overcome. Is the way I see it playing out. There's just not enough pushback. I understand the Bible says things are going to get more wicked, but we are supposed to occupy until Jesus Christ comes. So going further here, the result was welcomed by many liberal members of the scouting community and by gay rights activists, though most of the praise was coupled with calls for ending the ban on gay adults as well. See, Satan will never be content with just allowing a little perversion. He wants total commitment to evil. These homosexuals, it's just like the Muslims. They're never going to be satisfied until they totally annihilate Israel. They've made that abundantly clear and killed every infidel on the earth. The gays, the GLBT crowd, will never be satisfied until they have 100% absolute total approval of the world. But then look at Sodom and Gomorrah. What was their absolute total end game there? Well, ultimately it became, we're going to molest whoever we want to molest, whenever we want to molest them. And you have no say-so over that. That's how bad it had gotten in Sodom and Gomorrah. That's the end game if you just let the LBT crowd take over. Just like the Muslim crowd. You let them go to their logical end, and it will mean your death raping, pillaging, sodomizing, whatever they want to do. You let them go, this is where evil ends up. And then, this is a quote from Jennifer Tyrell, who was ousted as a Cub Scout den leader in Ohio because she's a lesbian. And then what did she do? She launched a national protest movement. She said, I'm so proud of how far we've come, but until there's a place for everyone in scouting, my work will continue because you're of your father the devil and you're going to do his works. Of course. Pascal Teresa, a 16-year-old Boy Scout from Maryland, was elated by the outcome. He said, Tesla, who's openly gay, 16-year-old who's openly gay, is on track to earn his Eagle Scout award, and was concerned that his goal would be thwarted if the proposed change had been rejected. Oh, what's this world coming to when we can't have queer Eagle Scouts? I mean, it really is a travesty of justice. See, in this brave new world that we're moving into, the only thing that matters is if evil has its full total rights, and all of us are deprived of all of our rights if we have any type of morality at all. We, as born-again Christians, or let's say pro-life, pro-constitution, pro-prepper, pro-Second Amendment, we have no rights in the world that Satan wants to implement. Only the evil and the wicked have rights. I got this email a long time ago. I actually did a keyword search and found this because I wanted to go into this a little bit further. And this is from a listener of mine named Clint. He says, I wasn't surprised to hear about the Boy Scout molestation scandal in your most recent teaching. See, I've already got into this before, Boy Scout molestation. The founder of the Boy Scouts, the British General Robert Baden-Powell, was a member of the Scottish Rite Freemasonic Temple, and probably thought of the Boy Scouts as a recruiting tool for future members and also those that they could molest. Here's a quick introduction to the issue here, and he gives a link that's still valid on the actual guy that started the Boy Scouts, who was a high-level Freemason. There's plenty of other disgusting things about Baden-Powell out there. So he was a reprobate devil, in other words. But the connection to Freemasonry is all I need to know. Additionally, the Boy Scouts of America are highly integrated in with the Mormons. Now, didn't we just talk about the Mormons a second ago? Yeah, and they were all for the whole bringing the gays in. I thought that they were so morally upright. You see them walking, running around with their little bikes around town with their little helmets on, and they're all dressed up, that little false Brill Cream religion so they can go take somebody to hell when they go. I pray against them every time I see them on the road. I get so righteous and indignant because all I can think of is they're going to someone's door to try to take them to hell. Not to say they might not already be on their way to hell anyway, but they're just their veneer of this wonderful veneer of we're so righteous and holy and morally upright. And here we are with this, and they're bringing the gays in. It's well known within witchcraft. I've heard this from different occultists that the Mormon Church is an absolute safe haven for witches or people in high-level occult if they ever get in, quote, trouble in the occult. And that's where a lot of them gravitate to. All Mormonism is repackaged Freemasonry. The guy that started it, Joseph Smith, was a Freemason, and he took all the tokens and the handshakes and that, modified them slightly, and brought them into the Mormon Church, started his own cult. That's all it is. So, I mean, other than that, there's no problem, though. So anyway, let's go further here. Additionally, the Boy Scouts of America are highly integrated with the Mormons, and given how the beginnings of that group are so tightly tied to the Masons, like I just mentioned, this is no surprise either. I'm not a parent, but I can't see how any Bible-believing Christian could let his or her kids get involved with scouting if he knew that much about the organization. Okay, on that thought, let's go further. This is an article from 2010, 3/19, March 19th, coming out of the Associated Press, and this was mainstream news, but again, mainstream news, but it wasn't really, it was not like the Jerry Sandusky scandal, in Penn State. They didn't make that big of a deal out of it. But they should have, because this is a much larger scale than Jerry Sandusky. The Boy Scouts secret sex abuse cover-up history. The Boy Scouts of America has long kept an extensive archive of secret documents that chronicle the sexual abuse of young boys by scout leaders over basically decades, like over the last 100 years. They have a extensive archive of secret documents that chronicle sexual abuse of young boys by scout leaders? Yeah, they do. And they admit to it. This is the Associated Press saying this. They're called the perversion files. Quote, the perversion files is a nickname the Boy Scouts are said to have used for the documents. They even call them the perversion files. And have rarely been seen in public. Well, why would we want that? We want to shelter, like we do the pedophilic Catholic priests. We want to shelter these scout leaders that are molesting these little boys because we don't want our reputation to be tainted, right? That's what's important. We don't want to protect the kids. We want to protect Boy Scouts of America and the pedophiles within it. I mean, that's biblical, right? That's morally straight and upright and serving God, right? I just love to point out the hypocrisy of this. They've rarely been seen in public, these perversion files, but that could all change in the coming weeks in an Oregon courtroom. The lawyer for the man who was molested in the 1980s by a scout leader has obtained about 1,000 Boy Scout sex files. 1,000. And is expected to release some of them in a trial that began Wednesday. Why isn't this front page news? Why hasn't the Catholic devil cult religion been wiped out just from their pedophilic priesthood alone? Oh, and it is a proven statistical fact that pedophiles have an unbelievable penchant for also being homosexuals or bisexuals. It's like 33% of all pedophiles are also homosexual, bisexual, whereas only 1 to 2 or 3% of the population are homosexuals. Yet around 33%, a third of all pedophiles happen to be homosexuals as well. Why? They're demon possessed to the toenails. Demons beget demons. Evil begets evil. That's why. It's very simple. The lawyer says the files show how the Boy Scouts have covered up abuse for decades. Probably goes all the way back to its inception 100 years ago. The trial is significant because the files could offer a rare window into how the Boy Scouts have responded to sex abuse by scout leaders. The only other time the documents are believed to have been presented at a trial was in the 1980s in Virginia. Again, my comment, where is the outrage? Who is being protected? The pedophiles. The kids we could care less about. Let them get raped all day long under the veneer of this wonderful, godly institution. We need to protect the pedophiles and our reputation because that's all that matters. This is the true face of the Boy Scouts, as far as I'm concerned. At the start of the Oregon trial, Attorney Kelly Clark recited the Boy Scout oath and the promise to obey Scout law to be trustworthy. Then he presented 6 boxes of documents that he said will show, quote, how the Boy Scouts of America broke that oath and how they break it every single day. He held up a file folder. He filled up file folder after file folder, he said, that contained reports of abuse from around the country, telling the jury the efforts to keep them secret may have actually set back efforts to prevent child abuse nationally. My comment, may have set back efforts to prevent child abuse nationally? Are you kidding me? Well, of course, as when you protect homosexual, pedophile perverts, they're going to keep abusing children till they either get caught or die. Proven statistical fact. These are the most reprehensible devils on the planet. And the Boy Scouts of America has admitted they have a long history of protecting them, so they don't sully their lily-white reputation. They feel it is better to let these pedophiles have their way and get away with these atrocities than to have the good reputation of the Boy Scouts of America ruined. I mean, at least they have their priorities straight, right? Well, whoever are responsible for these despicable decisions to cover this up, there is a special place in hell reserved for you all. Mark 9:42 says, "And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it is better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he were cast into the midst of the sea." That would be my message to all them that have covered this up. The Boy Scouts of America ignored clear warning signs that the Boy Scouts were being abused, Clark said. Charles Smith, the attorney for the Boy Scouts, the National Boy Scouts of America, said in his own opening statement, the files were kept under wraps because they were replete with confidential information. That's why they were kept under wraps. And my comment, like this is a valid excuse, confidential information. So, it's okay to let the pedophiles do all that they're doing and, to maintain our reputation. Because, that's fine. We can't open up the files because they're replete with confidential information. I mean, total insanity, what we're dealing with here. Clark is seeking a $14 million in damages on behalf of the 37-year-old man who was sexually molested in the 1980s in Portland by an assistant scoutmaster, Timur Dykes. Dykes was convicted 3 times between 1983 and 1994 of sexually abusing boys. That was my whole point. You let these guys get away with it, they're going to keep doing it. And the Boy Scouts has enabled this to happen over and over and over again. So they don't sully their lily white reputation. He was convicted 3 times between 1983 and 1994 of sexually abusing boys. Who knows how many more times he got away with it. And most of them were scouts, Boy Scouts. Although there have been dozens of lawsuits against the BSA over sex abuse allegations, judges, for the most part, have been denied requests for the files, or the lawsuits have been settled before they went to trial. So the judges, for the most part, have either denied requests for the files, or the lawsuits have been settled before they went to trial. My comment? Hey, just buy off the black-robed devil judges to keep the pedophilic, child-molesting gravy train going. Satan must be so happy about this. It reminds me of these verses. 1 Samuel 8:2. Now, the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. Next verse. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, which is money, and took bribes and perverted judgment. It really reminded me of that, because when you see what kind of black-robed devil would deny requests for these files on these sex abuse cases? How on God's green earth could he have that type of authority to do that, to do such a despicable, unrighteous act? Well, he was bought off with filthy lucre. He took bribes. And what was the result? He perverted judgment. And that's exactly what the Bible says here. His sons, who were judges, walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes and perverted judgment. Exactly the same thing. It's been going on ever since early biblical times. The Boy Scouts had fought to keep the files used in the Portland trial confidential. You devils from the pits of hell. You fought to keep these files from being used? I mean, how much more could they possibly say to the parents, the good scout leaders, the children in the scouts? How much more could they say to them? We could care less about you. If you get molested, we don't care. We're going to do everything we can do to keep all of this under wraps, to keep this gravy train rolling. We're going to do everything we can to enable these pedophiles to keep molesting. This is what they're saying. But they lost a pretrial legal battle when the Oregon Supreme Court rejected their argument that opening the files could, quote, damage the lives and reputations of people not a party to the lawsuit. That was their lame excuse for not trying to block these files from being used. Because it could damage the lives and reputations of people not a party to the lawsuit. My comment, why? Because they knew about these pedophiles and did nothing about it. In other words, these people that could have had their reputations and lives, who were not party to the lawsuit, why would, the files could damage them? Why could the files damage them? Because they knew about these pedophiles and did nothing about it. In other words, they would be shamed in public. If they were exposed for being silent when they knew kids were being molested, well, obviously they're going to look really, really bad. Because they did nothing about these pedophiles. So that's all that matters, is protecting those devils. Those spineless devils. If this is the case, they should be exposed as well. As they, just like the Boy Scouts of America, enabled these devils to continue to defile children. They were as much to blame as the pedophiles in a way. They enabled it to happen. They kept silent. Why should these cowards be protected, is my question. Oh, maybe because they hold high positions in the BSA or are major donors? You know what they say, money talks. Just more unrighteous excuses to keep protecting the pedophiles. Aren't the thousands of innocent molested boys the ones we should be caring about? No, they don't count. They don't matter at all. The thousands of molested boys who have grown up into men who are totally damaged goods who probably also turn into pedophiles or gays. No, they don't matter. Just let them keep molesting. This is the brave new world we're living in. The lawsuit also named the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because the Mormons acted as a charter organization. Here we bring them up again. Boy, they're really tied in with the Boy Scouts. They have that same white, just lily white veneer that they love to maintain, but inwardly, they're ravening wolves. Inwardly, it's like a whitened tomb, like Jesus said. You're like a whitened sepulcher full of dead man's bones. You look real nice on the outside, but inside you're full of death. That's exactly what would describe to me, after seeing this information, the Boy Scouts of America and the Mormons. Obviously, I've done a whole study on the Mormons that I give you a link to here, Mormonism Exposed. So the lawsuit also named the Church of, I don't even like to call it that, the Mormons, because they acted as a charter organization or sponsor for the local Boy Scout troops that included this victim, this one that's suing them. But the church has settled its portion of the case. I just pay them off. Hopefully they'll go away. The Portland trial comes as the Boy Scouts are making their 100th anniversary. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. And we're going to go to the listener question and answer portion. Want to thank all those that I just want to take a moment to thank all those that have donated, prayed for the ministry. Over the years, or if you're a new listener, we thank you so much for that. I also ask you to pray for us. It's funny, I don't know if something happened to the website. I'm planning on really doing some major upgrades to the website this summer. And that'll be a really good thing. There's going to be a lot of, hopefully, good things that we do to get everything kind of where it should be with the website. But our downloads this month have been way down. I mean, like almost half of where they were just a couple months ago, or even last month. So I don't know. It's probably having some attacks from Satan. Donations have been way down, and I don't even like to bring that up. I probably haven't even mentioned anything about that in probably over a year. But we're down to, through some unforeseen events, we're down to like one vehicle. It's very, very, very high mileage. And I've already put so much money into this thing, and I don't want to put any more. So I really realize I've got to get another vehicle at this point. So I would ask if you just pray about that if you could. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just asking that you pray about that. And just wanted to mention that, and we will go ahead and go to part 4 now. I have no idea how many parts it's going to be today because I've got a lot more to cover. So God bless you, and we'll see you in part 4.